Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about everything to do with your bobbin, from your bobbin winder to installing the bobbin and checking your tension. Issues with your bobbin or bobbin case can cause things like thread breakage, bunches in the bobbin area, and skipped stitches. One of the other things that people sometimes talk about is noise from the machine, and so sometimes the bobbin winder, if it's accidentally pressed on, can create different sounds than you're used to. So just double check that you are on the pause button here. Since bobbins are so important, let's talk about bobbins to start with. First, if you are going to wind your own bobbins, we do have the M-class metal bobbins, as you see here. You're going to want to double check them now and again all the way around both sides, looking for rough edges. Even though they are reusable over time, you know, if you drop them, things like that, they are going to get a little damaged. And if there's any rough areas, your thread is going to catch on that. So be sure to check those and replace them when needed. Pre-wound bobbins are very useful and they're a quick way to go, but a couple of things they can, because they are plastic, can also have rough edges, so you're going to want to look for those as well. Also check for cracks if these have been dropped or sitting around for a while. And remember that these are one-time use only. Don't wind these and try to use them again. You'll be really unhappy with how your machine is operating. Another thing to keep in mind with pre-wound bobbins is sometimes they're a little overwound, so you're going to want to take off a little bit from that before actually using. Now, bobbin tension is very important as well, so let's take a look at a properly wound bobbin. So it should be tight and smooth, which you can see here this one is. Nice and even in the way that it has wound on the bobbin itself. So that is a good bobbin. Here I have an example of a poorly wound bobbin. You can see it's very loose. You can see kind of loops that are formed here as well. This is going to give you all kinds of issues, tension issues, breakage as things get caught because it's not nice and smooth. Now and again, if you have too much of a tail as you're using your bobbin, and that tail can get caught later. So if you're like, hey, my bobbin was perfect and now I'm having some problems, go ahead and pull this out and double check that you don't have something that has formed over time while you were using it. So let's talk about how to wind our bobbins. We have a built-in bobbin winder right here. You can see you have the place where your bobbin's going to go. This should snap down. And you also have a second place for your spool. So you're going to want to go ahead and move your spool over to the one that's over here. You're going to thread through the second one on the thread line here. And then you'll see the A and B. The numbers are for threading the top of your machine for sewing. The letters are for threading for making your bobbins. We have a tensioner up here as well. So you're going to go through that hole that is located right here. And just like the tensioner that's in the front of your machine, you want to make sure that this goes in between those discs and give it a good flossing. You're going to come around this side and you're going to wrap around your bobbin clockwise. Holding that taut, you're going to press the play button here, and that is going to wind your bobbin. There is a pause button if you want to stop the winding of your bobbin because you don't want to fill it all the way. Sometimes you only need a little bit of extra thread for something, especially if you're using like a colored thread and it's only one little section that you're going to be using that on. Otherwise, it will auto stop for you based on how you've set it. If you find that your bobbin's not filling enough or filling too much, you can adjust it. You'll need your 3mm Allen wrench, and there is the screw right here. You can loosen that by turning counterclockwise, and this now allows you to adjust it how much you want it to fill. Once you get it where you want it to be, then clockwise to tighten that. One of the other things that can happen with winding your bobbin is you can get differences in how it's winding. So this one is both loose, but you'll see it's coning. Right? So depending on the direction of the cone is going to tell you which way you can fix that. So I'm going to just set this here so you can see. If I'm coning near the bottom, underneath right here is a nut, and you can adjust this nut with a 3mm wrench. And if it is filling more towards the bottom, you're going to want to turn this a full rotation counterclockwise. If you're finding that the coning is happening towards the top, then again you would adjust this, but now you would go in the clockwise direction, a full turn. If it is really loose, like this one, you can adjust the tension with the tension knob that is up here. So you would just give this a rotation to the clockwise direction, spin some more, check it, and just do that each time until you get the proper tension. Now that we have a properly wound bobbin, it's time to install our bobbin in the bobbin case. So let's talk about the anatomy of our bobbin case. We're going to start by looking on the inside here. And if you'll see, there is this little black backward C that is a spring. Right? It should bounce a little bit. When I push it, it should kind of come back out. If your spring is not doing that anymore, it's time to replace your spring. They don't last forever. They do need to be changed. There are a couple of places where it can come out now and again. There's little teeth. So if it seems like it's springy enough and maybe it just hasn't settled in there, you can put those back in there with a small screwdriver or something just to get them back in the holes. On the side, we have this tension portion right here, and you have 2 screws. This first screw here, which I call the smaller screw, this is the one that holds this metal piece on. You will want to adjust this now and again to make sure that it's tight. Usually every couple of bobbin changes, I will just go ahead and take my hopping foot height tool and I'll just put it in that slot, and I'll just give it a clockwise turn just to make sure that it is there. Because, you know, as you're working and it's vibrating, it's gonna just eventually start to kind of wiggle itself out. That's gonna happen, that's normal. Or if you've dropped it or something like that, it's just gonna wiggle itself out. And if this falls out, this whole metal piece is gonna come off. And once you drop a tiny little screw like this, it's hard to find. So just every once in a while, give that a turn. The other screw, the larger screw that is here, is for adjusting the tension as the thread comes through here. And so once we put the bobbin in there, we'll show you how to do that. On the front of your bobbin case, you have this lever here. It is the way that you're going to remove your bobbin and bobbin case from your machine. If you kind of let this go as you're removing your bobbin and you do it too early, you can actually end up leaving your bobbin in here, and then you have to carefully get it out. You don't want to manhandle it too much. Ideally, you should try to put this back on and try again, but I have had once in a great while where I just can't get that to work. So just being very careful with a screwdriver just to kind of wiggle your bobbin out. And I've really had that more with the pre-wounds than I have with the metal bobbins. For loading your bobbin, notice that you have this little opening here. Place that towards the left. With your bobbin, you want to make sure the thread's coming over the top. Right? This would be coming from the bottom. We want it to come from the top. You're going to then place the bobbin into your bobbin case. Pull your thread, so you see the little slit there. You're going to feed that thread through the slit. We're going to come through this here, and it's going to pop into this hole here. You want to make sure you haven't gone past this hole here, or again, you're going to have issues with tension. Once you have that properly threaded, make sure your tail is going to the left. Again, the reason you want to do that is if it's flipped this way, when you go to put it inside of the hook, it's going to get caught. Carefully place that in there, push, and you should hear a click. Want to know more about your bobbin or bobbin winder? Check out your manual that came with the little Rebel. If you can't find it, we always have a PDF copy for you on our website, graceframe.com, under resources. If you're watching this going, you know, I've been really thinking about the little Rebel, but I'd like to know more, you can find out more information on our website or contact sales@graceframe.com. In the next video of this playlist, we're going to talk about everything to do with thread tension.